All right, folks, we have a great guest on with us. It's an actor that's been in a couple movies that I know you've seen, and he has another film to talk about. Welcome to the show, Brian Scannell. How are you doing, Brian?
Hey, good, thanks, man. How are you?
All right, I want to talk about this new flick. I know it started out at the San Diego Film Festival. It's getting a lot of great reviews. It's got a great cast. Tell everybody a little bit about the film and what your role is.
So I play a pretty dark character in the film without giving too much away, but it's the film's basically just about these two childhood friends from Boston, Mass, and one of them ends up, which is my character, out here in Los Angeles as a detective, and then I get caught up in some not so good activity, and then my friend has come back out from Boston to actually my wife had passed away, so my good friend came out from Boston to support me in my grief, and then I drag him into the tangled web that I wove, the character wove anyway. So, and it was a lot of fun to do. It actually is It's interesting how we ended up with the feature, because it actually started off as more of a short, and then the director and writer creator John Hill had wrote some really just great scenes between my character and the other lead, David Cooley, and his character. So, we just kept shooting, and we kept finding these great locations, and we just kept going. And with technology today, with a very minimal budget, you can actually put together a pretty solid piece of work, and it was a lot of fun. And we basically, took that time and shot like over a year.
The Wolves of Savin Hill. It's a interesting thriller. There's a lot of twists and turns, and I'm sorry, Brian, but you're becoming a little typecast here with all of the dark roles that you keep playing. I don't know what's going on. I've seen The Town and Gone Baby Gone, and kind of building up we're going to have to work in like a romantic comedy or something here, Brian. I don't know what to say, bro.
Well, come on. I did a comedy. I did Pineapple Express. It was my first death scene. But it was a lot of fun, and I got a chance to work with some really, really just great actors. And
there is a really good actor. Jack McGee and Kurt Fuller's and Michael Massey. So talk a little bit about the cast. I mean, that's a great cast to pull together for kind of a smaller budget project.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk, all these guys, great character actors, and not to take anything away, leading actors as well. They have the chops for that as well. But for this, it was more of an ensemble cast, and Jack McKee's an old friend. He actually did I produced a short, and my very first short film, and acted in that with Jack, and that was basically, hey, Jack, I'm shooting a short, and he just said what time and where, and that's the kind of guy he is, so that was really nice, and then to work with my friend Paul Carafotis, who Paul just happened to kind of fall into this thing, and Paul did, has worked and been a working actor for, I think, 20 plus years, and back in the 80s and 90s was, on multiple shows, movies and whatnot, and Paul bringing his character into it, which is one of the other detectives, was phenomenal, because he was so, that character he made it so animated, and it was so easy to play off of from my perspective, and and the other actors I didn't really have a lot of work with in the film, but definitely strong performances and solid performances all around.
It's called The Wolves of Savin Hill, folks. So you definitely got to look that up. We'll link to some of the information there. You can check out the trailer and information.
It's actually Savin Hill. It's Savin Hill.
Sorry.
It's all right. And Savin Hill is actually a section of Boston, a section of Dorchester, which is a suburb in Boston proper. And I have some good friends that grew up there. Actually, a great working class neighborhood. So that's where the name that name comes from.
You got your Boston ties going on yet again, it seems.
Yeah, I know, right? I just can't get away from it. It's fine. I flew 3,000 miles to get away from it. It just follows me here.
I know. I'm gonna watch this film. I'm gonna be sitting there watching The Wolves, and Affleck's going to walk around in the background or something, isn't he? I'm just going to know, right? It's what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, there's no cameo by Ben, but he did support the project.
I'm teasing Brian a bit. Obviously, he's worked with Ben Affleck on The Town and Baby Gone, Baby Gone, and just some great projects and great experiences. Talk a little bit about how your career has changed in the last couple of years because of those opportunities.
Well, actually, that's a great opening there for me. Ben Gone Baby Gone was my first feature film. I didn't know Ben. It was his directorial debut. I was asked last minute to go in for an audition, and I went in, and I earned the role, and I showed up on set out there, and we spent a week together shooting this one particular scene in there, which is another dark scene. But it was it's interesting. Ben does a lot of, and then what happened was they had to do some pickup scenes for The Town after some test screenings, and so Ben's assistant reached out to me, asked if I'd meet him for a coffee and talk to him about it. So I went and met him, and we talked about it. But I told him, I said, listen, I don't know if I'm right for this role in The Town, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank you because Ben casting me in Gone Baby Gone, it really changed the trajectory of my career and brought a lot of opportunities to me that I'll always be very, very grateful and very thankful for. So.
He's definitely the tough guy, and if you haven't seen him as Lenny, you probably won't get the next part of my question, because I guarantee, Brian, how many times a week does somebody ask you about the Skippy Jar reference?
Yeah, that's Billy Lee. And you know what's funny? That was not in the script.
Did you just spout that out, or was that somebody else's idea?
Yeah, it was. We ended up doing. Ben is a big promoter of and fan and supporter of a lot of improv. Right. So
right.
Ben's a big believer in getting actors that are very familiar with material, and then kind of letting them be creative with it and go with it and give them different looks at it. Right. So. So we shot that scene, multiple different ways, multiple different angles, and then there was this one day where, we all started kidding around, and then of course Michelle wanted to get in the middle of it too. Michelle Monaghan, and who did also a phenomenal job, and so here she is in this bar room with all these creepy characters, and then she jumps in, and I mean it was great. But Billy Lee, who played Big Dave the bartender, actually just came up with that, just spouted it out, and we all just were dying with it. And he's like, we gotta Ben fell out of the director's chair laughing so hard. So he's like, we gotta do that again. I want you to use that line. So we ended up using that line, and then when I look over at the door, I say, hey, Mike, grab the door. It's really Mike. It's my buddy. It was a buddy of mine's brother who was a firefighter who happened to be walking by the bar. An extra didn't show up that day, who was the guy supposed to be standing at the door. So I said to Mike, who was walking by, I said, hey, Mike, what are you doing? You going to the firehouse today? He said, no, I'm off. I said, all right, good. Come here. Stand right by this door. So we go through rehearsal, and then he has a line, and so we went through rehearsal, and we realized we were missing somebody at the door. And then we took a break, and then we came back in and put Mike at the door, and we went through rehearsal again, and he spouts off the line, and Ben's like, who are you? He goes, Scannell, is this one of you guys? And it was funny. I said, yeah, he's a buddy of mine. He goes, can you be around for a couple days? Mike's like, yeah, I can be around. He's like, great. Okay, we'll use you then. Stand by the door. Oh, it's freaking great.
Oh, what a great backstory. And definitely, we've talked a lot about Affleck's projects and interviewed some folks that have been a part of them, and he just kind of works this way, piecemeals things together by allowing a lot of creative freedom, a lot of creative liberty with source material, and just a master at being able to keep it all straight. I think that's the one compliment people really pay to him. And what was that like for you? Obviously, the town is even more intricate, but is that kind of how a lot of the sets work, or is it just Affleck's really kind of separated himself because he's really got it all?
Yeah, no, you know what? There are some directors that, they give you the direction, and, you're hired to do a particular role, and they want you to kind of play within the boundaries of it, right? But Ben is one of those guys that is, he really believes in the actors he hires, and 110% he's all in. So, therefore, with that trust, that belief in the actor, he really wants them to be, he doesn't set those boundaries. He wants them, we have an expression, we show up to play, and he really wants you to play, wants to give it your all, but at the same time, be creative with it and make it your own, and he really gives you that, that room to play with, which is really nice.
Well, let's contrast that a little bit with, and you already mentioned it, the Pineapple Express. Obviously a comedy, a little bit of a different feel on set, a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, that was completely different because we shot that whole bit in the studio lot, which was funny. And but I mean, being around all those guys, I mean, that audition was hilarious when I had to go in for that. Being able to work with James Franco and that that cast and whatever, I forget the kid's name, escapes me, the other lead in that. He's doing all kinds of movies. Actually, they're in a big.
It's Rogan, right?
Right. He and so they're in a big controversy now with the new film of the interview or whatever it is. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So that was the one time where I had to actually get to show up and just have a lot of fun on the set. It was my first death scene, first time I got shot. David Gordon Green was an awesome director. Another guy that just have fun with this thing. And so that was, we did that one take. And then it was so good, David said, I gotta put that in slow motion. So when I get shot, it's in slow-mo, which is actually funny. So big fan. That's a big that scene is a favorite of my nephews and nieces back in Boston.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure tons of people come up to you and kind of mention that to you.
Mm. Well, I'm trying to figure out how, because I have so many nephews and nieces, I'm trying to work my way into some type of Disney movie or something, so at least there's something they can watch.
It'll be like Scannell and 8. It's Brian's found out that they're all his.
Oh, so funny.
Oh, so all right. So Brian, so what else you got working on? What other projects are in the hopper for you that you can tell people about?
Well, right now I'm producing a film. I've got my friend Brian Goodman, who directed me in What Doesn't Kill You, with Mark Ruffalo and Ethan Hawke. He's attached to direct this project that we're producing right now, based on a book called Paths Along the Way, written by Paul Kenny, a lawyer out of Boston. Takes place in Boston, starts in the 60s. And it's a great book, great novel. You can find it on Amazon, Paths Along the Way. And I'm, developing that with Brian's producer, Mark Friedman, and Paul Kenny, the author, and a crew that he put together, Kinvara Productions. And so, so that's a lot of fun, getting that off the ground. And we should be shooting that sometime in the spring. And then there's a couple other things in the hopper, and I don't want to jinx myself, but I just keep showing up, and I go where I'm invited. So
that's fantastic. Great stories, great memories, that kind of thing. Do you have like a certain story, a certain word of advice that somebody gave you years ago you're still kind of hanging your hat on a little bit?
Brian Goodman had said to me, he started off as an actor. His early projects were like Monument Avenue and Slow, and Ted Demme was a big fan of his, R.I.P. Ted. And and Brian had said to me, he was pretty much the one that led me into The Brotherhood, which is what got me into acting, which was I was cast in a TV show on Showtime for 3 years and for 3 seasons. And they were chasing Brian as one of the leads, and that didn't work out, but I ended up being part of the project nonetheless. But Brian had said, just don't be that guy, and the guy that's just a jerk on set, and if they don't need you, go to your trailer, just show up, do your work, keep your mouth shut, so that's pretty much it, and always know your lines, that's number one. Right, you're gonna know your lines. So, and I can't say on Wolves of Savin Hill I knew all my lines at all times, because sometimes the lines were just coming at me right on the spot. But
that's the glory. So that's the glory of taking a short script to make it into a longer film. So God bless you. That's a great accomplishment. It's called The Wolves of Savin Hill, folks. We'll link to website, get the trailer hooked up in there for you, link to Brian. Brian, you doing the Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of social media stuff too?
I do the Instagram, and it's BScan and SoCal, and yeah, and I'm on Facebook and all that. But I'm not much of a social media guy. I'm kind of I'm handicapped when it comes to the technology. I'm not.
Because he's a bad guy.
Because he's social media guy.
Because he's the bad guy. Guys, this is the truth. He plays this dark character all the time. Well, he'll let us know when he gets that Disney role, and he'll be starring next to Steve Carell in some sort of crazy family shenanigan film due in 2018 or something. I don't know. Yeah,
that'd be great. Actually, I did a pilot with my friend Mike O'Malley, who it didn't go, but we had a lot of fun shooting it, I'll tell you. And Mike wrote on Shameless. He was on a sitcom called Yes Dear for many years. And
it's going to happen because you seem like the angry neighbor.
Yeah, well, you really actually, but in that, it's funny. In that, I was Gay Cousin Mike. That was my character.
Oh, well, between that, angry neighbor, Gay Cousin Mike. I mean, that was the next thing out of my mouth. Brian's stealing all my thunder here. All right, Brian Scannell, folks, that's fantastic. Oh, Brian Scannell, folks, we'll thank you again for fitting us into your busy schedule, and folks, we'll check it out. The Wolves of Savin Hill.
Thanks very much.